about not only the relative and systematic weakening of the left in Pakistan, but also the gradual strengthening of the right wing. The bulk of the legal community, the mainstream media and key civil society groups may have differing views on the use of religious ideology in state policies, but these are fairly centrist or right of center forces. And so what I'm trying to say is that media, the civil society organizations in a significant portion are left leaning, especially the media, if not the civil society organizations. Well, some of the civil society organizations, or most of them we work with, are not right aligned. And the bulk, and they also have a bias toward urban structure. So, because all these professional groups come from the urban background. The legal community, in any case, is very obvious from various studies that have recently been done, work on power alignment, and they are inclined towards the establishment from the early years after independence. This too is something which scholars have discussed in their work quite elaborately. So, I'll just skip most part, and I don't know how much of a sense am I making. So basically what I have tried to say, and I can refer to another incident, why I consider the legal community, especially the lawyers, and both, I mean judges as well, why do I think that they are ideologically right-wing aligned. There are a number of examples, but one example will be sufficient and good enough. I should mention that, which I failed to mention the other day when we were talking about public interest litigation and blasphemy laws. For example, blasphemy laws, let's take it up. A significant number of lawyers in Pakistan do not want blasphemy laws amended. What to talk about annulled or repealed by the legislature. And this was most well demonstrated in the case of Governor Salman Taseer. He was the governor of the province of Punjab, and at one point of time, toward the end of year 2010, October 2010, Asia Masih, a Christian, was accused of blasphemy, and she had been convicted by the trial court for blasphemy against the Holy Prophet Muhammad under section 295C. Governor of Punjab, appointed by the federal government, which was a coalition of Pakistan People's Party and Awami National Party and some other liberal and not so liberal and religious groups, he criticized the blasphemy laws, especially 295C, and he, despite all the odds and threats, he went to see and be photographed with Asia Masih, and he announced that he would make sure that Asia Masih was given dealt with fairly, and justice was done. And there was this move by him to require the president to grant pardon to Asia Masih so that she could be taken out of Pakistan, because there was serious threat to her life. And while he was making these efforts, he was killed by a bodyguard of his own, belonging to the police department. And the bodyguard, whose name is, surname is Qadri, he, in his post assassination interviews, not exactly interviews, statements to the police, clearly stated that Governor Taseer had committed blasphemy by merely criticizing the law. By calling it a black law, he had actually called into question the very honor of our Prophet. And lo and behold, who are the protectors and the champions of the cause of Qadri? The very legal community of Islamabad and Rawalpindi cities. They put garlands around his neck when he was to appear in the courts. And a former Chief Justice who had recently retired, just recently, former Chief Justice of Lahore High Court, he filed his wakalatnama, the power of attorney, to appear on behalf of Qadri after he was convicted by the lower court for murder and sentenced to death. He filed his power of attorney to appear before the High Court of Islamabad against his conviction. So this is the state of the movement, the lawyers' movement in Pakistan. I think I should finish it here. This gives you a very brief outline and an overview of the fates that this movement has met. I can go on, and we can discuss a number of aspects about this movement, but this is something which needs to be seriously looked into. I would suggest that we need to look at it in a more critical mode. And this is not to deny that there have been some gains as well. It's not all zero sum, but only history will tell us whether this movement contributed in a very positive way in the long term or not. Thank you very much. I think we should now invite Karamat Sahab to say a few words. If he's not feeling well, and having criticized the lawyers' movement so much, I think my throat is also causing problems.
Thank you, Asad. I think it was a very interesting presentation on the lawyers' movement. I think two clarifications. You cannot call it a lawyers' movement. It was some lawyers' movement. Not all the lawyers were involved, because lawyers are not a monolith. They can never be. So not all the lawyers were against military rule. They never were. Mostly they are not. Not all the lawyers were like for the independence of judiciary. Various people had various motivations at that time. And Iftikhar Muhammad Chaudhry was certainly not standing up for the independence of judiciary or for the cause of justice for the poor people. He basically, why he became what he became, was that, and mind you, he was part of the bench, which when Musharraf took over, and there was a case filed which went to the Supreme Court, this Supreme Court bench not only basically legitimized Musharraf's takeover, they actually allowed him to amend the constitution. They first time allowed a time period for the military regime to continue and then hold election. So they allowed him to continue for 3 years and then hold election according to his own scheme. And so that was the framework within which Iftikhar Chaudhry had become the Chief Justice of Supreme Court. And also I think we should keep in mind that almost 99% of the judges in the Superior Court are actually the lackeys of the establishment. You don't become a judge of the High Court or the Supreme Court if you have not been licking the boots of the establishment. You may find odd characters like M.R. Kayani during Ayub Khan's time, and a few judges like here and there. At least one judge in every High Court, and sometimes in the Supreme Court. Otherwise, the judges and the lawyers are both a very conservative lot. Very conservative, very close to conservative Islamic ideas, and have more or less always supported military regimes. So we should keep that in mind. And also keep it in mind that almost every political party has a lawyer's wing. So the lawyers then don't act independently. So it so happened that at this particular juncture, almost all the mainstream political parties in Pakistan had begun to dislike Musharraf. From a position where all political parties welcomed Musharraf when he imposed martial law, we used to have something called Grand Democratic Alliance, which included every party except Nawaz Sharif, because his party was in power and was deposed, Benazir Bhutto welcomed Musharraf taking over. And it is also known that she actually offered to join his cabinet as a senior minister, not even the prime minister, if Musharraf was willing to bring her into the cabinet, which Musharraf refused. So nobody was against Musharraf. Nobody was military takeover against military takeover in 1999 when it happened. So, and he was liked by the West because he had these two poodles which he put under his two arms, and his photograph with those poodles was splashed all over the world. So he created an image of a liberal for himself. He used to drink and he made it known that he drinks, and everything else that in a very perverse way can be seen as liberal. So he had support of almost all the political forces. But there was discontent simmering because he was not fulfilling his promise to fully democratize, civilianize the government. He held the elections in 2002, but he was again planning to come back as president in uniform. He was not planning to do away with the uniform. He said it is like part of my skin. And one of the slogans during lawyers' movement was, "We will take off your skin." Some lawyers had this slogan. So suddenly what happens? Now this man is called to the Chief of Army Staff's house, where all these big generals with strange kind of caps and medals and things, they were surrounding him and asked for him to resign. Because Musharraf was told by somebody that if you are planning to contest elections in uniform, this man has other ideas, so he might actually, as the Chief Justice, impede your attempt to get elected in uniform. That was the main reason. So he was, kept there for a few hours and was asked to resign, which he refused because he had nothing to lose after being the Chief Justice. And as you can see, he's kind of semi-literate. You can understand from the way he speaks. So he became the Chief Justice without much merit really. He had no great judgment to his credit while he was the judge of the High Court in Balochistan or as the judge of Supreme Court. No great judgment at all. Somebody else writes his judgments. That is also known. So anyway, since he had nothing to lose, he somehow took the courage to say no. And some people now say, actually, General Ghani, who used to be the Director General of the ISI at that time, he quietly told him, say no. Because he had his own ambition, he had some problems with Musharraf. He was the second one in line. If Musharraf was planning to get